Regular session, Mayor and City Council meeting, 6 p.m. Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021, City Hall Complex. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk, will you please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I have only one speaker's forum on call to the public. It's Denny Bennett Wallace. Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record, please. If the light on the mic is not, if it's not green, if it's red on the mic, it's green?
It's green.
Okay. All right.
That's a go.
You're on, yes. You're on.
Good evening to you. My name is Deanie Bennett Wallace, and I'm here to represent my mother, the late Mildred Simpson Bennett, and I have followed my mother's footsteps as I have now retired as a high school administrator and adjunct with Northern Arizona University. My mother was a dedicated community educator in Nogales in the 1940s. Her focus was in providing the best education possible for all of her students by giving them the tools for life, positive self-esteem, knowledge, and the ability to dream. For the adults, encouragement in supporting the school and their children's love of learning, because not all parents had that opportunity. And for the leaders to see a vision for a united future. We honor my mother's vision as she saw the inequity of a divided community and helped fulfill the vision of an educated community not separated, not segregated into different schools for minority children. We have educational opportunities because my mother was an integral leader in pursuing the integration of this community through its schools. She went from being a teacher at the segregated Grand Avenue Frank Reed School to becoming the first African-American teacher at Elm Street School. A community's history is extremely important, and we must know where we were years ago and what it took to get us where we are today. In the 1940s, children of Buffalo soldiers and Hispanic mothers were only allowed to be educated at Frank Reed School. But look around at us now. I had a wonderful opportunity today to meet with Mr. Colgate at Nogales High School, and he has offered a wealth of resources to bring students and the community together to celebrate, to learn about, and to carry the Nogales history of Frank Reed School and the Buffalo Soldiers and the Nogales Buffalo Soldiers into the future. We should never forget our history. Thank you very much for the opportunity to recognize and honor my mother, Mildred Simpson Bennett, and the Nogales Buffalo Soldiers, and to bring this historic event to Nogales. Thank you.
Actually, thank you. Thank you. B, this presentation by Donna Jackson, Nogales Buffalo Soldiers.
Did you want to skip A?
No, that was. Oh yeah, sure. Wait a minute. Yeah.
Someone else first?
Yeah. Let's go with the doctor.
Okay.
Yes, Danny. Yeah. I saw the name and I go, wait a minute, it's not the same one from the presentation. Dini, and the other one is Dini, isn't it? No, on the present doctor, Dini. That's the archaeologist.
Yes, sir.
And the other one's Dini also, Bennett. On the speakerphone. Yeah, those close. I'm a little confused there. That's all right. Yes, different spelling. Okay, on the presentation on A is a presentation by Dr. Dini Seymour on her recent discoveries of significant local archaeological features. Go ahead, Doctor. Dr. I just want one comment. I know you said that you can't reveal the location, but eventually it will be revealed after the whole study's done, or yeah, because I know of several locations of Trenchero Indians and in the Kino Springs area, and just go like this, like wink. Like this. No, I'm just joking, doctor. And then some others in the Rio Rico area, by the Pendleton Ranch that was there, and I worked briefly with an archaeologist. His name was Ed Sutter from the University of Arizona many years ago, and I was part of a crew that we actually mixed the clay, the mud, the straw, the sand for about 3,000 adobes at the Tumacacri Mission to be able, because they uncovered the first foundations of one of the churches there, and we used that to bring up the foundations up to a certain level, so that people that visit the Tumacacri Mission would know. I think that was the first church that was built before the actual church that's there, and then the other adobes were sent to Casa Grande. But I'll tell you a little story. We were all working there. We were very young. Matter of fact, I had gotten back from Vietnam at the time, and there was a bunch of us that they hired, local people in Nogales. Some were masons and some were not. So we were mixing the mud there, next to the church, and people would come in and from out of state. And they had the tendency of taking pictures of us, and they would go, look, there's some Indians there and some Mexicans there making mud for the adobes, But we weren't doing it with our feet or anything. We were using a mixer, but it's strange, how interested people can get when it comes to. Findings like this, and how important it is historically for our area here. The Santa Cruz Valley with the Heritage Foundation is very important. That starts up north in Tucson and goes all the way to Magdalena. So we're part of that in Nogales, and it's good to have that, so that we can identify that for people that want to visit our area, not only Santa Cruz County, but Nogales, for historic reasons. Nogales is not only the gateway to Mexico, but actually the gateway to a lot of history that came through here in Nogales, and the first settlers that came through here actually created the border, created economic development, and created everything that we have now in Nogales. So I'm glad you're doing this, and maybe someday I hope I get an opportunity to, and everybody gets an opportunity to be able to know where these sites are at after done your work on them, and so that they can be identified and people can visit, But great job. Thank you very much. Does anybody have anything? Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions or any comments? No? Okay, so Thank you very much. Is that all you have for us? Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Okay, B, presentation, Donna Jackson, Nogales Buffalo Soldiers. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Don.
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor Garino, City Council, and community. Thank you so much for your gracious welcome to us. We came in, and you've just been so hospitable and welcoming. Thank you so much. I, like many of us, wear many hats. And recently, I became the founder and president of the Nogales Buffalo Soldiers. Well, I did that because I recently learned that my grandfather, Lucius Jackson Sr., who was a Buffalo soldier stationed at Camp Little, 25th Infantry, we just learned that as in the past few months. We did not realize that infantry was part of the Buffalo Soldiers. Everyone pretty much seems as though they think cavalry. Okay, so when we learned this, we were off on a journey of discovery, and it's just been amazing. And thank you for this part in that. So, said I wear many hats, just like many of us. In honor of the Buffaloes, Buffalo Soldiers, here is a hat that I got from Fort Huachuca. Okay, so we're going to represent the Buffalo Soldiers this evening. And also, I am a city commissioner in Pomona, appointed by the mayor. So I would love to have some type of relationship formed between Pomona and Nogales. And because you gave me this hat, I think it's official. So I would like to look forward to how that would be in the future, okay? But now we would like to start the presentation if my cousin Ricky Jackson would join me. And Faith Posey, that would be great. So first, we have a special message from someone.
Hello, bienvenido. My name is John Jackson, and I was born and raised in Nogales. I was very involved with the community and even served in the city council and was vice mayor. My father, Lucius Jackson, was a Buffalo soldier at Camp Little. At this time, I would like to introduce you to my son Richard and niece Donna to give you more insight on the event to honor our Buffalo soldiers.
Thank you, Uncle Johnny. We have learned that he is just so, we'll stop it, if you don't mind. Okay. We have learned that he is just so well remembered and loved in the Jackson family. Again, we so appreciate it. Okay, so thank you. So the Buffalo Soldiers, we're going to go back. That was a great surprise, but we're going to go back to just the heading of the Nogales Buffalo Soldiers. I just want to take a moment and say, those are the colors of the Buffalo Soldiers, navy and yellowish gold. So we're trying to represent, so we as a descendants are trying to wear that. And we are here to talk about, in January, the tribute and museum exhibit for Black History Month. And thank you again for your support. All right, now we're ready for that slide. Okay, that's a logo. That is the Nogales Buffalo Soldier logo. If you don't mind stopping it. And then go back to the logo. We are engaging our youth and community in this entire project. Unfortunately, when I started asking people about the Buffalo Soldiers, not many people knew who they were or actually did they serve in the United States Army, when. They didn't know anything like that. Not only students, but adults. So that kind of put us out here on this journey. So we engaged students from, we have to go back, please, if you don't mind. Yes. From the Cal State Fullerton graphic arts students. And this logo was created by Haley Fisher. And we're working with a number of students, and they're working on we have various logos and social media under the direction of Professor John Drew. So I just wanted to acknowledge that not only are we working with students in California, various communities, but we're also reaching out to the students of Nogales. And as mentioned earlier, there was a meeting with the school official, so thank you. Okay. How did this all start? In December 2022, my cousin and I, and my dear cousin-in-law, we came down to Nogales because this was the 25th anniversary of this landmark. Are you familiar with this? It's on Grand Avenue, and it is the rainbow and a placard, okay? So when we came down, the Nogales International covered the story. I contacted them. I thought it was great, and they came down there. And it was in this article that they mentioned something by reporter George McQueen that my grandfather, 25th Infantry, stationed at Camp Little, was a Buffalo Soldier. Had never heard of that before. What came over me was amazing. So I got on the phone, started calling everybody. What do you know about this? No, that's not true. It's the cavalry. So that started our research and our discovery. And we went to I did a lot of research. We did a lot of research. We went to Fort Huachuca, where there is the Buffalo Soldier Museum. And then we went to Primera Alta Historical Society Museum, and that confirmed it. We learned that my grandfather, all the Buffalo Soldiers in the infantry were Buffalo Soldiers, and that was not only for the Jackson family, but other descendants who have now are part of the Nogales Buffalo Soldiers Legacy Association. So with that being said is, once I made that discovery, if you don't mind taking it to the next slide, this is the article that the newspaper talked about us coming. Family wants to discover camp's history. Well, camp's history and our family history, and then they talk again about what's happening at Camp Little. So what I want to do is absolutely acknowledge, the next slide please, Nogales International for partnering with us, for covering it. Today we have publisher Manuel Coppola. Thank you so much, and he's going to kind of follow us in this and cover this meeting and get the word out to the community, and then cover it for the last weekend of January. Okay, so now the next one, please. Okay, talking about the Nogales Buffalo Soldiers. They were stationed at Camp Little from 1910 to 1933. This is a historical marker in front of City Hall, okay? And it was a dedication, and Buffalo Soldiers, Levi Biggs, and I don't have the first name, but Buffalo Soldier Matthews. And we have a descendant of Buffalo Soldiers Matthews here also this evening. Okay. Next one, please. And I'm going to have my cousin, Ricky, introduce this slide.
Hello, Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members and community. Thank you for attending today. My name is Ricky Jackson, known in Nogales as Ricky Jackson. I moved to Tucson and changed my name to Richard Jackson because that was my legal name. So, my father, John Jackson, as you saw, introduced us. But this picture, in talking with my father, he said, "No, that's not your grandfather." And I said, "But it is. His name's underneath his
Picture,
you see his picture. His name is right there, Jackson." He said, "No, he wasn't in the K9 unit." And he also told me that he wasn't a Buffalo Soldier. And I was like, well, we found out that they were a Buffalo Soldiers because, no, he said it was a cavalry. So that was a misconception. So that's when me and Cousin Donna decided to say, hey, we need to bring this up to the forefront because I attended A.J. Mitchell, and that's where the camp was at. I played in the little cave that's behind A.J. Mitchell there. Our teachers would get mad at us because we were to get out of that cave. And here we are.
Yes.
But my grandfather is, if you're looking at the picture, second from right, and he's holding the dog. That's Lucius Jackson Sr.
Wow. Yes, excellent.
And the next slide, please. And here we are at the historical marker that Cousin Donna was talking about. We basically took over the job that Uncle David started, David Jackson. He got instrumental in getting this plaque, put into that corner, as I guess that's the corner of Frank Reed where Frank Reed used to be at. And my dad was the one that was painting the rainbow, but he got to a point where he couldn't bend over and paint the rainbow, so it was starting to fade. We had come to visit it on a field trip that we brought Cousin Donna, and we're like, hey, that rainbow looks pretty faded. We should probably take up the reins here and paint it. So we made a date, and her and her family came
December,
down. December,
last 2020,
yes.
which was the 25th anniversary of that plaque.
Correct.
So there you go.
So we got together and we came and we repainted the rainbow. And at that point, we started saying, there's something here that being from Nogales and growing up and going through the school system, it was never brought to my attention as a student the significance of Camp Little and how it impacted the community of Nogales. So that's what really fueled us to bring it to the forefront, get the schools involved, and get them educated, and finally bring this 100-year-old buried treasure to the surface. So here we are, and thank you for listening. Next slide, please.
Yes.
And there is my Uncle David, George Biggs, my father, and Matthew, I believe. He used to chase me when he was a police officer, and I used to race motorcycles, dirt bikes, and I would ride them on the streets, which is illegal. And I would go to my little dirt track and practice. And one day I saw him, and he was parked, and I was coming in my motorcycle, and I ran away from him. Well, he knew where I lived. He was waiting for me at my house. So he came and talked to me and told me that I couldn't be riding my bike on the streets. But this picture is them at one of the...
I guess a dedication.
Is it a dedication? Yes, okay. That he did. And then the next slide is the same with my dad and my Uncle David.
And if you can focus in on the shirt, Uncle Johnny's shirt, there is a rainbow. Can you please speak regarding the colors of the rainbow, unique colors and the significance behind that?
Correct. There you go. So the colors of the rainbow represent, in this particular rainbow, is the two nationalities, the African American and Mexican colors that go into the rainbow, which is the flag, correct?
The colors of
and
the flag.
It's the African flag, which is the black underneath.
And that means our skin also.
And this means her skin too.
Yes,
So that's what this rainbow represents. When you see it, you're like, oh, wait a minute, the colors are off here. There's no black. That's what that is.
Yes. So there you go. Okay, you don't mind? Next slide. Okay.
You're in the next one.
Which one is the next slide? Next slide, please. Okay. These are these students of the Frank Reed Grant Avenue. Now, I've heard, I think this is the closest we've come to. There's no picture of that school. I think this is the best we have. So this is when they were young. And then the next picture, please. This is when they have come back to the reunions. Okay. So this will also be not only the tribute and museum exhibit in the end of January, it's also sort of a reunion. Okay. So here they are. Next slide, please. Now, I would like to bring up Miss Faith Posey, the artist of this beautiful work of art of George Mingus Jr., the famous jazz musician born in Nogales. And she's going to speak about him and an upcoming event.
Okay, minor correction, his name was Charles. And his father, too, was a Buffalo soldier here in Nogales. He was part of the 25th Infantry, as was the Jacksons. And it started with an idea of a jazz concert, because it's the home of a great jazz musician, and eventually evolved into the memorial, which the city graciously contributed some property at the end of the cemetery. And the Santa Cruz Advocates for the Arts have worked very hard for many years, and we are approaching completion. We hope to have a formal dedication and jazz concert on the 100th anniversary of Charles Mingus's birth. So his birthday was April 22nd, which is a Friday. We're going to give him another day and do it on Saturday the 23rd. So we would like all of you present. We would like you to be part of the ceremony since you've been part of the project. And now I'll switch my hats, which aren't nearly as colorful as hers, to the Premier Alta Museum, and acknowledge that our president, Chris Cortland, is here tonight as well.
Oh.
But we will be hosting the exhibit for Black History Month at the Premier Alta at the old City Hall. And we have also a few sleuths out there that are searching the web for various information on Buffalo soldiers that were specifically of Nogales. So it should be a very interesting, fascinating, and educational exhibit.
Thank you for your support. The last slide, please. Okay, this is the save the date, and we're going to leave these cards in front and different places around the city. But just briefly, it's going to be a weekend of activities. We come in on Friday, we have a welcome reception. Saturday is the kickoff, the historic tribute and museum exhibit. And then on Sunday, we're going to walk to the Nogales Cemetery, recognize those fallen, those who are now buried, Buffalo soldiers, Nogales Buffalo soldiers. So that is the save the date there. And actually, for this very special occasion, we would like for City Council to consider a proclamation for Saturday, January 22nd, to be Nogales Buffalo Soldier Day. We would appreciate that.
29. Yeah,
Please.
You're mixing it up with my...
Thank you for my people, my everyone, my Nogales family. I'm so upset with myself that I ruined that. Thank you for Saturday, January 29th, to recognize that as Nogales Buffalo Soldiers
Of Nogales.
of Nogales. We're going to have a proclamation for that date. Did I get it right this time? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And we will accept a proclamation for April 22nd for Mingus as well.
Excellent.
Well, I'll take care of both proclamations.
Thank you,
They're done
thank
from my
you.
office.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And before we're almost finished, if we can recognize a few more of the family members, the descendants, would anyone else like to come up and say a few words, your association with the Buffalo Soldiers, please?
I forgot to show you, I have pictures of students that went to Franklin School as adults.
Excellent. And, when we went to the Primera Alta, we're going to have a lot of these pictures on display. Wonderful.
Thank
Yes.
you, Donna. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. My name is Lonnie Jones. I am the daughter of William M. Jones, Warrant Officer, Nogales Buffalo Soldier. And he was stationed here when he met my mother, Juanita Rubio. They married, had 9 children, and I'm the baby of the family. So they're really old. But they started their education right here at the Grand Avenue School. They were taught by Aunt Mildred, because we're all related and connected. And went on all college educated, but we all got our start here in Nogales. My father became a maestro of a big band, and he traveled Europe. He went over to entertain not only the troops, but royalty, heads of state. As a matter of fact, he was North Africa and Northern Europe, Italy, when the U.S. government was going to send Glenn Miller over to take his place because he was getting such accolades. And I gave you a picture of him in front of his band marching. Unfortunately, Glenn Miller's plane went down in the Atlantic, and so he didn't take my dad's place. But he came back, and when he finally retired, there were 3 of us left in the family. Everybody else was grown and gone, and he retired and brought the 3 of us here so that we could finish high school in Nogales. And we know many of you. Wayman Jones, my brother, was the first African-American student body president. I was very active in Palm and Cheer, and my youngest brother, John Autry Jones, was the second African-American student body president. So I'm saying this because we all have our roots here in Nogales. It's special. It's still home. I was pretty much raised in LA, but when people say, where you from? I'm from Nogales.
Thank you.
And this is a very emotional opportunity and event for us, and I thank you for your consideration, and thank you.
Thank you. Notice the color coordination here.
Hello, and thank you in advance. My name is Rebecca Lynch. I am the granddaughter of Buffalo Soldier Oscar Matthews Sr. He was the Matthews. Everybody couldn't remember the first name, Oscar. And you also probably know my uncle, Oscar Matthews Jr. He was a police officer here in Nogales, chasing Ricky around. My mom, Elsa Mia Rubio Matthews, 25 last names, grew up here in Nogales. My nana, Maria Jesus Rubio, lived right over here on First Street. And as a little girl growing up, this is where we came to spend our summers. So I knew very young that my grandfather was a Buffalo Soldier, but he passed away when my mom was 5. And unfortunately, there wasn't any kind of place for us to go to find out, to get information about this. That's why this project that Donna has started has been amazing, because my daughters are here, so their great-grandfather, they're now learning the history of their family here in Nogales. I have grandsons, and they're learning the history of their great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather. So this whole project, just the history of this city, of what it has birthed, I think is just, it's not just about us, but it's about this whole state, ultimately this whole country, understanding that we're all one. All of those Grand Avenue kids, my mom attended Frank Reed Grand Avenue School. I just grew up believing all these people were my cousins. Most of them were, because, there was a whole bunch of them, but we are cousins. But this is needful. My children need to know, your children need to know. Probably some of you right here on this board were related and we don't even know it. So, thank you for hearing us out. Thank you for allowing us to come. We appreciate you.
Thank you, and thank you for stressing, this is American history. Okay, we're acknowledging the Black regiments. However, this is American history. And I would like to end on one of the mottos from the 25th Infantry, and it is onward. So you're going to be hearing that. Excuse me? Forward and onward. So you're going to be hearing that quite a bit. If I finish with onward, that's so empowering. We are moving forward. We are taking care of this. We're going to do this. We'll see you at the end of January. Thank you for all your support.
Before we end this presentation, I just want to say I was talking to them outside on the stairs, and it so happens that your uncle, Dave Jackson, when I was in high school, as a matter of fact, I was in high school with Lonnie. She was just 1 year older than me, though. I was right behind you, Lonnie. And he was with the LA Striders, a track team, very famous track team in California. And on my senior year, when I was captain of the track team, I received the award that he would send every year to a Nogales High School student in track and field. And I was very honored to receive that award from your uncle. And it was something very important. His award was, you didn't have to be a state champion to get it. It was called the most inspirational track and field athlete. And so that's the award I received from your uncle. And so, I'm part of your history too. Yeah. And I sat with your dad in the council. He sat where Mr. Maldonado was at, and I was right here. And I was also vice mayor at the same time. He was, because we rotate that. So I was part of the same council with your dad. And so, anything we can do. And then, matter of fact, on my first administration, it's when on a public-private partnership, Mr. Kissinger was here, is when we awarded that corner that Faith was talking about for the memorial for Charles Mingus. So I've been part of that too from the get-go, and I'm glad that everything's coming. It's taken a long time. It's taken a long time, but it's good to have those memorials. It's good to have that. Like they were talking, the archaeologists about history, about the indigenous people, this is another part of history. This is the reason why you have to visit Nogales. All of this is something that should attract people from Tucson, Phoenix, and other places when they visit to Nogales, not just because it's a gateway to Mexico. It's because the Buffalo Soldiers were here, because of all these settlements, and it's so important. It's so important for us here in Nogales, and I want to thank you very much, and on behalf of the members of the City Council and myself and all the city staff, that you were here, and whatever we can do to assist you in all these events and the proclamations, I'll take care of them myself. We're going to do that for you, so that when you do have those events and whatever you're going to do at the Primeria Alta and whatever, count on us, And Mr. Kissinger is very good at doing that, and he'll take care of that, so that we can make sure that we can.
May I add one thing?
Yes.
I apologize that Deputy Manager John Kissinger took us around this morning in the city. How can we help you? He did that. Thank you.
Yes.
So we're going to actually maybe ask for some funding too. Anyway, we'll send you something, okay?
We'll look into it. Yes, why not? Why not?
Okay.
Yes.
Got that recorded? No, I'm kidding. No. And also,
No,
thank you so much.
Ms. Gordon is putting that on a piece of paper.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe.
It has been a while.
We wrestled together, remember?
Yes, we did, yes.
Nice seeing you, man.
Okay, item number 5, financial monthly report. John?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. We have our finance director present. She'll give us our financial report, and she's also handed it out already? Yes. So you should have it in front of you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor and Council, everything I have to say is not as exciting as what we just heard. Let me tell you. So tonight I present to you the September of 2021 financial report. At this point in time, we should be right about 25% for both our revenue and our expenditures. We are 3 months into the year. So our first table, which is Table A, shows our general fund. It shows our revenues at $5,844,424, which is right at 26% coming in. And our expenditures are at $6,896,616, which is at 25%. If you move now on to Table B, that is our sales tax. For September, we collected $825,741. It is less than September of last year, but overall, we are still $369,388 over last year. Next is Table C. This is the expenditures that go with the general fund. All of the highlighted departments are the ones that are above the 25%. Those are the ones that we continue to watch. They are the same ones as last month. The only addition is finance. It's slightly up because we've added the whole year of the auditors into our encumbrances amount. You'll also notice this month on this chart, we included the encumbrance separately from the spent, so you can see what has been spent and what is sitting in a PO at this point that has not been paid, but it is encumbered. And at the bottom, it shows again that $6,896,616. The next table is Table D, and that is our HERF and our overweight fees and revenues. For the revenues at this point, it's $639,705, and the overweight fees brought in is $79,416. And then the expenses for the HERF is $914,904, which is 5% lower at this point than the 25%. And the overweight fees are slightly above. They're above by $47,265. It's about 2% high. If you go on to Table E, Table E is our sewer fund. For revenue, we've collected $862,434. We're sitting at about 21% of our budget. And we have expended out $660,470, which is 23% of the budget. Table F is our water fund. Our revenues collected is $1,284,000, which is 26%. And our expenditures are $1,879,594, which is 32%. And our final table is Table G, which is our sanitation. Sanitation has collected $706,718, which is about 23% of our budget. And the expenditures are at $584,569, which is 16%. Are there any questions on those charts? I told you it's not as exciting as what we already had.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman.
Sure.
Yeah, on Table A, so if you look at the, it might be my numbers here. So if you look at the general fund, you have $22,131,259. So if you add the American Relief Funds, the $3 million, and then you add the carry forward funds of the $10 million, so it's $35,936,000. It's a little different from what you have there.
This 36,000 number?
Yeah. Is there a reason for that?
We had done, let's see, let me go in here.
It's a difference of 96 7,000.
Can I get back to you on that one?
Sure can.
We probably moved a little bit of money around, but I just want to make sure that I'm correct on that.
Okay, because that's a big difference.
Yes.
97,000. So if you look at the next chart, the expenditures, I'm sorry, the expenditures.
yes.
Yeah, the same table A. So just go back also, because if you look at the 18 million, and you look at the payroll, and if it's at 25%, it's a little difference there of it's 4,662,000. So it's a little bit slightly different. So you're talking about a little difference there. So might wanna
So
look at that too.
what we did was that percentage was used at,
25%?
it was used at 24.99, because that's the actual amount that would be for September. So it's not 25, but we rounded up to 25. So
But it makes
the
a little difference,
the
though.
percentages are at the
Yes.
24.99.
All right. Just give me a corrected one. Thank you.
Are there any other
Is there
questions?
anybody, anything else? Councilman?
Yes.
Do you see a trend here on as far as revenue coming in? Are you going to continue going down, or is there a reason that you're not doing better this month than last month?
I'm not sure. I've actually already looked at the numbers for the next month, and we're actually looking kind of good for this next month. So I know, spending wise, our revenue was very high when it came to sales tax in August. Of course, people were buying for school. I'm hoping that purchasing now will start to go up, and we'll start to see more revenue when it comes to the borders being open, which happens very soon. So I'm hoping that this is not a trend going downward, that we will start to see a turnaround.
Then we got the holidays coming up.
Yes.
Let's just hope that the reopening of the border is something that, let's just hope we can be optimistic about it,
Yes.
okay? Because just because it's going to be open doesn't mean there's going to be an influx of people just
Exactly. That's why I
jumping the
say
border and
hope.
coming over here, okay?
That's why I say hope.
Just by the vice mayor telling me that she visits over there and how the economy is booming in Nogales, Sonora, that tells us that they've gotten used to shopping in Nogales, Sonora.
Right.
And not only that, but remember, bless you. Not only that, but they remember they have to be fully vaccinated. Okay, so and they have to have their documentation. A lot of people's visas expired and they have to be updated. So, John and I were part of a meeting with CBP not too long ago, and they're helping us. Okay, they're going to help us try to get these residents from Nogales, Sonora, get their visas updated, and they're also working. They can do it online. They're using the Morty Port of Entry to do that, so that when the time comes, they can just go ahead and be able to come across a lot faster. And we were pleased to hear, that they are trying to help the economy in Nogales. CBP is trying to help the economy in Nogales. But I want to be optimistic about it.
Yes.
But, I would love to stand there on the 8th at the Cassini Port of Entry and really see the difference between now and then. I don't think it's going to be much of a difference. The same, it'll take a month or so before. But I hope we can salvage some of the holidays, but I do hope that we continue shopping locally. Residents of Nogales, Arizona, and so that we can help with the economy and help with the sales tax here and
I agree.
have a good Christmas. But
We did have one business come in today who's on Morley and said, start back up my stuff. I'm ready. So
okay, good. one of the ones that had no,
That has been closed for the past year and a half.
but is it one of the ones that was empty of merchandise, or one that had the merchandise still in the store?
No, I think it was empty. I think they had emptied it out.
Yeah.
So he's starting right now so he can be prepared for next week.
Oh, good, because those are ones that worry me.
Yes.
That's just because once you take everything from the store, it's basically telling that you might not be
They're
coming
done.
back.
No.
So,
No, so I'm
but
hoping.
that's good to hear.
I'm hoping that this next week we'll see a few more come in and do that too.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I know there's a lot of licenses that kept up, and you know, smaller businesses and have been surviving. You know,
Yes.
with the least of their sales and the least of employees, but you know, it's my concern is that voting population that we need to have from Nogales, Sonora come across, and let's be optimistic on that.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Well, then I'll, you gonna say something? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Bonilla.
On the overweight fees, have we begun sacrificing, what is it, 50% back to the state for the maintenance of the bridge?
I can help with that one.
Thank you.
So the overweight fees are collected by the state, and so they remit to us. So we don't have to follow me on that. So we don't get the money up front. We don't collect the overweight fees and then remit it to the state. The overweight fees are paid to the state, and then they send us our portion. And they're going to keep their commitment that we made. Does that make sense? Thank you.
They're going to
Thank you,
kick you
Mr.
right off the top, my friend.
For sure.
Before we get a penny.
Go ahead, Mr. Romero.
Thank you. But however, one thing that we should say is, Gene, last year, the governor and actually the overweights were taken away for, what was it, John, 3-4 months? That we weren't given overweight fees.
They the governor suspended the overweight fees for a period of time due to COVID.
That amount, I'm not sure if you could go back to those months that we were giving it to us, and it's a good significant amount because produce season is just around the corner.
Right.
It's starting and it's going to be. Everybody said it's going to be big and big. And then the other thing, with CBP, I've seen that, Marley and Deacon Saney, they removed some, I think one of the pods that they had, so now they have more accessible gates to cross. So, they are working on getting more people to come down.
Good.
So, but both I think the overweight money will increase significantly because we were frozen for like 3-4 months.
That makes me want to go back and look at last
Yeah,
year's.
you can look at it.
Absolutely.
Because you'll find 3-4 months that we were zero. We're zero, and this go back 2 years ago, and you'll see it what it more or less was. Okay, thank you.
Fine. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, number 6, discussion items. Number 1, discussion, direction, and possible action on the use of cell phones by the mayor and city council members during council meetings to include executive sessions. Councilman Bonilla requested this item.
Yes, the reason.
Councilman Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason I put this down on the agenda is because I've had a few comments and concerns from my constituents. One of them was that they found it interesting that they were seeing some council members when we're up here in the dais, or even when we were during the pandemic, and they pointed out to me is that why were they using the phone when they were working, which I did not have an answer. And another thing that is cause for concern is that when we have an executive meeting where we are discussing very delicate issues, I find it interesting that some certain council members are texting or even taking phone calls during an executive meeting. I would just say for the optics, just to shut off our phone for both a regular meeting and an executive meeting. I think that we owe it to our constituents. I mean, we get together once a month, maybe twice. At most, we're here for 2 hours. I mean, I know we had some long meetings, maybe they're taking 4 hours, but that's not every month. And I think that we owe it to our constituents to give them those full hours, to give them our full attention. We're elected officials, and I think that our constituents deserve a little bit better than that.
I understand. Mr. Massey, something like this, would that be a policy decision that you, or?
Yes, if it's the if it's the will of council to make this a policy, we can come back with a potential policy for action and adoption. But right now, you can make a motion if that's the intent to say that it will be deemed out of order if someone is using the phone on the dais or in executive session or something like that. But if that's too broad and you would like to make it more specific, we could work on a policy to bring back in writing.
Would you think a policy would be a lot better that we can come back to, or?
Yes, I think that if we could make a policy on that. And
right, the city council hasn't actually adopted rules of procedure for, I think the last was like in 2004. So, I mean, this is just one element of maybe a broader rules of procedure type document that you may want to consider. But we can certainly start with this.
Because I know we have one for people that are attending the meeting that they, turn their phones off and keep them silent and don't use the phones. But I mean, that's different than a member of the council using it and stuff. So maybe you should work on a policy that I think and bring it back. Would that be something you want to see?
Yes, please.
Go ahead, Councilman.
And answering to Mr. Bonillas and Mr. Massey, first of all, whatever goes on in executive session should be said outside. So he's breaking the rule there. Okay, even though it's use of cell phones. Okay, whatever goes on in there stays in there. Correct? Whatever goes on in there stays in there.
It's not whatever goes on in there, I think,
yes, it is.
Councilman. I think it's whatever is discussed in there. But I'll research that, Mayor, and get back to you if there's any case law that says whatever goes on in executive session stays in executive session. But it's designed to allow council to have, private discussions and direction, especially to staff.
Yes, and, I know this is like I feel it aimed to me. I work. I'm one of the few council people that works pretty much almost 24/7. I've got a son, has a heart issue. I've had 24/7 for all his life. He's 28. The only time that I don't keep my cell phone on with me is when they know that I'm out of a location. Okay, so I would appreciate if the council would take that under consideration. And I don't hide anything. If you guys want to see what I text, what I do, I got no problem. But we're civilians, human beings. I understand people gave me their vote, but let's make sure that everybody uses it for the right thing. Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Councilman.
Mr. Massey, in your legal opinion, does this also include the directors when we are conducting city business, including executive session? Thank you.
Yes, I mean, we could be as broad as you want it to be on the type of policy, but there's a little distinction when it comes to adopting rules of procedure among city council. That is basically your agreement among yourselves and how you wish to behave. I think as it relates to directors and individuals like that, you can be much more directive as far as this is what will be done and this is what will be accepted. But at all times, Mayor, you are the chairman of the meetings, and if you want to call someone out of order, I think that's something that is vested in your discretion.
Yes. Well, I've noticed Mr. Maldonado usually, but I know he works. And he's told me that he's always on the phone, and I can understand that because everything he does it by phone in the produce industry. But since it was brought to my attention, and when Councilman Bonilla wanted to place this on the agenda, I felt that it was good because my concerns were that I wanted to bring it to you because I did mention to Mr. Bonilla that this is a policy. I know we can direct something here and make a vote right now and say, you know what, we're going to police ourselves on something like this. But I've always respected policies more than anything else because it's so easy to and this could be written by you and offered to us, and then we can make a decision if that's how we want to proceed with it or how strict do we want it and stuff like that. And if you could do some research on that and bring it back to us so that we can, is that fine? If it can be done like that? Go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, I just have something to add, Mr. Massey. When you're doing your research, I think that it's really important that you also bring back to us when we talk about cell phones. I did a little bit of research because it was on the agenda and was quite surprised. So it could be a little tricky because you can also get into the gray area of Texas. Are they subject to are they subject to being, investigated and so forth? I mean, it could go on and go on and go on. And probably what I'm talking about, because if we're going to do a policy, then is it just the use of cell phones? Is it the also including texting? Do we also include, on our personal phones, on the city phones? I mean, it could just go on and on and on and on. And I think you know what I'm alluding to. So when you come back with your research, it would be really nice to really look at the different options you are going to provide before we adopt any policy.
But, one thing, but honestly, like Mr. Bonilla said, we come to the dais to do our job, And if you notice, I never have my phone, As a matter of fact, it's in my office, right? And I never bring it. I never use it. I never, there's no need for me to use it because I'm here to do my job as a mayor. And if I'm going to get a phone call, they're going to have to wait until I'm done with what I do here, And I know your work. You've told me about your work, and I've seen you go out and answer calls in the lobby. It's understandable. It's understandable, but I mean, Mr. Bonilla said it. We're here for a couple hours. We should be able to live without the phone for a couple hours, and that's why I say that it should be a policy that is done, not just police ourselves on it. Because I'm not going to sit here and then watch one of you use the phone and say, "Could you please excuse yourself and go in the lobby and answer the call?" I'm not going to be doing that. I think we need to do that ourselves. That's our job. We got elected to do a job here as council, and we need to do that ourselves. So you can put it in any way possible, but I've always seen that when there's a policy set, I think it's always respected a little bit more, and we don't have to enforce it upon ourselves or even mention to ourselves, hey, stop using the cell phone or stop doing this. Let's come to the dais, let's do our work. And sometimes I know we could stay here 3, 4 hours, 5 hours, all we have to do to get out of here faster is less discussion, read your agenda before you get here, and we can possibly get through the council meeting a lot faster so that we can take care of business later on. But my recommendation, if it's okay with the members of the council, is that, Mr. Massey, you work on a policy and bring it back to us, and then from there we'll make a decision.
Mayor,
Yes.
has my use of phone ever interfered with what I come and do?
I'm not saying it does. I'm not saying it does. But I mean, the thing is that it should be. I mean, I think we should be able to live without the phone for an hour or two.
Unfortunately,
so
we rely on the phones now in our business and our families.
Yeah. Okay, so this is my recommendation, unless somebody else has anything else to do, Mr. Massey, and then we'll bring it back. Thank you very much. Okay, number 7, reports. Update, John, on streetlights on Grand Avenue north of Baffert Drive. This was brought up by Councilman Bojorquez.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Bojorquez asked me to look into putting or figuring out some streetlights the west side of Grand Avenue from Baffert up to the area of Frank Reed. We have done that. We've identified, I believe it's 5 or 6 poles that belong to Unisource where streetlights could be installed. I believe today the contracts to accomplish that were dropped off at City Hall for signature. We'll return them to Unisource immediately to get Unisource in very short order to put up those. I believe is it 5 or 6?
It's a total of 5.
A total of 5. There's already 2 there, so we'll put 5 more lights to hopefully light up that area. I asked Robert to meet with Roberto and Guevara from Unisource, and they actually toured the area and understand the needs and the desires of council. So I'm hoping that by our next council meeting, Councilman, those lights will be on, and we'll have the lights along Grand Avenue there.
And this is on the west side.
Yes, sir.
West side of Grand Avenue.
Yes, sir. That's from where the old county probation or where Tractor Supply is all the way to the truck stop.
Yeah. Yeah, because on the other side there are no poles.
Yeah, there's no place to put them.
Yeah.
The source going to provide the poles and the lights?
Yes, sir. We don't do poles and lights. Unisource does all of our poles and lights. I mean, we have a few in the city, but the majority of them.
They're not going to bill us for it, are they?
Yes, sir.
They are?
Yes, sir. It's
For the material. I know the service would get billed.
correct. We pay the monthly bill for it, and we do for all the streetlights in the city. So we're just adding 5 more to our inventory of streetlights throughout the city, Mr.
They
Mayor.
bill us even if it's turned off.
They do.
Yeah, no. Even if the light's off, we pay for it. Yeah. Yeah, but those are not going to have new poles, all right? What he's talking about, they're going to go on the wooden poles that are there.
They're metal poles, Mr.
Is that the
Mayor, but
ones
yes.
you're talking about, John?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it'll just be the light itself. Okay, B, report on delinquent utility accounts. And this is Councilman Diaz, you requested this.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. From what I recall, and I don't exactly remember when we discussed this issue, there was a debt of about $636,000 owed to the city. I have the memorandum here done by the finance director. Thank you for that, Gene. And I'm showing that they paid down the debt a little bit. So we still have active debt of $519,245.88 that is still owed to the city that are delinquent accounts, right? So the delinquent accounts that have paid, they've contributed about $116,000 in paying the delinquent accounts. So when you went after these delinquent accounts a little bit more active, you got some results from what I can see. And that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see that downward trend, but it's got to go down a little faster than $100,000 in 6 months, something like that. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see the numbers and to make sure that the debt was going down, not up on delinquent accounts. So, well, thank you for the memorandum. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Ms. Vice Mayor? May I?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz, after this memo was produced and analyzed, and I had a conversation with Jean about this, we decided that we should do two things. We were going to add delinquent utility accounts to her financial report, so every month you'll know where we're standing on it, and I think that gives us a better gauge of how we're going. So we're going to try to incorporate that into it. In addition, what we're going to do is ask for another policy that Mr. Massey might help us write to bring back to Mayor and Council for consideration on delinquent account payment plans, because currently there is no set policy on it, how much they have to pay. So we're going to research other municipal utility companies, Tucson Water, et cetera, and see what type of a policy they have in place for delinquent accounts. Currently, it's basically people coming in with a large delinquent account. How much can you afford to pay? And that's the payment plan we put them on, instead of saying, this is a policy approved by Mayor and Council that says you have to pay it within so much time or something like that, which we believe might help reduce that delinquent account number. In addition to that, the problematic ones are the ones that we don't have sewer service with, as we've always known water service with, because we can't shut off sewer and garbage. And we have started passing those over to our city attorney, who has indicated that he's going to start looking at bringing some legal action to reduce that number. So there are plans in place to try to capitalize on that delinquent accounts. So we'll have that monthly report, and those are the steps we're taking.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Kissinger. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for looking into it and moving the ball forward on this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Massey.
Ms. Vice Mayor, I have a question. Mr. Kissinger, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, last time we discussed the delinquent water bills, I remember that there was an outstanding bill with Liberty Utilities that was in around $200,000 or something. Has that?
Sure.
Have we been working on that or?
Sure. So, Ms. Vice Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
The Liberty Water issue, the 200-some thousand, we're not reporting it to you as a delinquent account because it's recognized by both Liberty Water and the city of Nogales that amount is in potential dispute. So we don't want to artificially inflate this number by saying it's delinquent. Both sides recognize that there's this amount. Where we're going to legally settle on what that amount really is pending. So that's why we're not including it in the report to you. So that basically, I'll let Mike answer when we'll have that number resolved, so we can get it off this idea of it potentially being a delinquint account.
Yes.
Madam Vice Mayor, very briefly, their agreement with us is to pay based on flows. Their percentage, their agreement is to pay the percentage of our cost of treatment, and then unfortunately that's wrapped up into the dispute with IBWC, and we'll be discussing that later tonight in executive session. And so when we finalize with IBWC what our outstanding O&M amount is to get us current, then we'll be able to finally look backward with liberty and say, okay, their percentage of this total number, and we'll be able to, I think, very quickly, finalize and liquidate that outstanding amount. But unfortunately, it's dependent on finalizing our dispute with IBWC.
Thank you. Go ahead.
John, when you do a payment schedule, do you let the customer pick whatever amount they want to pay, or do you take into consideration their financial situation? And some customers can pay more than others. So how do you work that payment schedule?
Mr. Mayor. So short of there being a written policy on how we can determine payback amounts when they get onto this, our finance director and an angel sit with the customer, and I believe that they try to work out the best possible solution for them to continue the service. But one of the things is, let's say that they commit to and sign a contract with us to pay $50 a month to pay off their delinquent account. And by the way, this is both residential and commercial accounts. Their agreement is that if they comply with that, paying that extra amount monthly to the city, that their service won't be interrupted, and so we won't turn off their water. However, they're committing to paying their ongoing monthly bill plus the amount they said that we're going to pay to try to catch up. And if they don't pay that, then we go shut off their water, and if I'm not mistaken, the total amount becomes due before we turn back on the water, plus a reconnection fee, and so it's a lot more costly for them not to comply with a contract. Our problem is that we don't have a set amount or a metrics to come up with the monthly payments. It's basically sitting with the people, trying to analyze what they can pay, and really trusting the information that we're getting. We don't have a system in place like a bank that has an application. We verify employment and all those things that that would take a lot of resources and effort on the city's part at this time that we don't have in place. So we just kind of work with each individual customer on a case-by-case basis. I hope that answered your question, Mr. Bojorquez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor. Mr. Kissinger, have you ever considered, people having a hard time out in the community, as you well know, have you ever considered using the American Relief Funds in helping some of these people pay that are having a really hard time making ends meet? Have you ever considered using some of the American Relief Funds in helping them pay some of these debts?
Sure. I haven't thought of using American Relief Funds to helping our utility customers pay their ongoing debts. That's a great suggestion by the councilwoman. Maybe as we move forward, we can look at allocating those. I don't know if it's appropriate to use those funds for that. We would have to look into it, but I haven't considered it. No, ma'am. Plus, I don't have any American Relief Funds to apply to it at this point, but when they do become available, we bring that question on how we're going to use it to council for their approval.
Well, Mr. Massey, at one time we were contemplating, especially on the area with Valle Verde, contemplating using the utility company to assist us in collecting for us, because they have the water, and the water is basically the key to the whole thing. For you can't disconnect sewer, you can't disconnect sanitation. So didn't we at one time when Mr. Randall was here? No? Did we ever work?
Your memory goes back a long ways, Mayor.
Yes.
Right. When I think it was Mayor Mark Lopez negotiated with Mr. Randall that we took over their billing. So the residents that received Valle Verde water received a combined bill for water and sewer and sanitation just like everyone else. And so when there was a problem and they didn't pay the combined bill, Valle Verde would turn off the water.
Yes.
But that got caught up in the whole ACC situation when Mr. Randall passed away, and the ACC didn't like that for some reason. I think maybe we can revisit that. I think it's, I had a staff meeting today and we discussed different options, and obviously having that as an enforcement option, it just makes this collection process that much easier, and we do intend to explore if that's possible to go back into that relationship, Mayor.
Yeah. And the way I look at it, being, because I've been thinking about this, being a company, a utility company that's not associated with the city, I'm sure if they did it, they would charge us a fee. I'm just saying.
Right. As I understand the previous agreement that basically expired just about the time that I started working here at the city, we processed the Valle Verde bills at no cost to them.
Oh, okay.
So we took that on, and there was no money that changed hands either way. But we'll see if that's something that might be, we can open that discussion again.
Yeah, maybe we should bring that and research that and see if we can do something, because I think this is just going a little bit too far, and I don't see any end on this. And it'd be nice one day we could own Valle Verde water.
Yes, sir.
And it would be a city water, so.
Mr. Mayor? So, Ms. Montiel sparked another, as I started thinking about her ideas about helping people who can't afford their utilities. The city just entered into a contract with Mrs. Brown over at the Neighborhood Center, and they're running the CCAP. I think it's CCAP?
Yes.
CCAP, and that's state-run, and I believe it's federal money that assists people who are underprivileged and can't pay their utility bills. So there's another avenue for people. And we do refer people on a regular basis as they come in and say, hey, I can't afford to pay that. We have referred them over to CCAP for that assistance.
Yeah, CCAP helps a lot. And they actually take a step forward. Sometimes they'll help you even for a couple of months forward from.
And I believe there's also, on the commercial side, I believe there's some federal COVID money available for small businesses. And if I'm not mistaken, and we don't have that department here in the city of Nogales, but I believe the information I have on that is you go see your local banker, and they have the information to assist you with funding for small businesses. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's what.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
And I don't know if it's that program allows small businesses to take care of utility billing, or it's only payroll or something like that. I'm not I'm not up to speed on that much on that.
We should work on that.
I have one more question.
Yes, go ahead.
That's good to know. I know the Chamber of Commerce is helping people fill out some applications to help some business owners. Also, if you look back at this budget here, there is $3 million from American Relief Funds.
I'm sorry.
There's $3,357,000 of American Relief Funds.
In the city budget?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just a comment to it. And I know, Ms. Montiel, I think there's certain areas we could use it, and that's something, we got to look into. But, I'm not sure if it's usable in that category. Right, Jeff?
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's usable in that category.
Not sure either. It's great topic of discussion, and maybe we can have a study session and see what we can do with it. But thank you for the information, and I'll certainly look into those $3 million that we have, if we can use it for that.
Councilman Bonilla?
My concern, Mr. Kissinger, that last time we discussed this issue, we were handed a list with no names on that list, but some of these addresses were in a very wealthy part of the city, which caught my attention. And so I wonder, well, these people live in certain areas of the city, very wealthy areas, I might add, and caught my attention that they had maybe like $1,000 outstanding bill. My question is, if we set them up at a $10, $15, $25, that's never going to get paid off. Let's be realistic. So we need to sit down and figure out, in a matter that we can figure out how this money is going to be paid back. I know that there are people in dire straits, but let's take a step back. We've had 3 stimulus payments already, plus other incentives, and some of these water bills have not gone down. My job, if there's anyone that has been affected, I do sound for concerts, but I didn't have a gig, and I had to, and we had to juggle it around for the water bill. And like I said, we have to figure out, it's going to be hard enough to figure out who is in dire straits, who is just running around, just not wanting to pay their water bill. So that, it's kind of hard, but I like, as Mr. Diaz said, we need to catch up on this as soon as possible.
And it's actually not water bill, it's sewer and...
Sewer, yeah.
Yeah. So. Okay, Mr. Diaz, you okay with this?
Everything's
Fine?
good.
All right.
Yeah, we got some good discussion out of this.
Okay,
Very good.
perfect. Okay, let's move on. C, update on Frank Reed Apache Boulevard project. This is, Mr. Maldonado, you brought this up.
Yes, thank you, and I think John worked with Mr. Guerra on getting us updated on the progress on Apache Frank Reed Boulevard.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John.
Mr.
Thank
Guerra is leading both these projects, and he has a presentation for us.
Thank you.
That he can share with us.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to give you an update. Thank you, Mr. Councilman Maldonado, to request this update. I'm happy to let you know that we are making progress. We are making progress on both projects, the ADAT project and the city project, which are combined somehow.
Juan, aren't they already up in the middle?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the cover sheet where I'm showing the challenges that we have on one of the sites with so many driveways, very steep, and the ADAT project coming on the other side with the pedestrian pathway. The cross section basically is this. If we go back, the pedestrian pathway will be on the right side. As you can see, the plan is to construct a 10-feet pedestrian multi-use pathway here and reconstruct Apache Boulevard or Frank Reed Road
uh, on by the city itself. This site is a city project, and then this site is an ADOT project. So that's why I'm saying it's a combination of different funding sources. So far, as you can see, our city workers, street workers, has been making progress with the sidewalks construction. They have done so far from C.R. Dooley Place to close to Mariposa Hills. They have completed 600 and a little bit over 600 feet of 5-foot sidewalks. They are missing to construct additional 245 for by next week. They will be done. Some of the pictures, you can see it now. That will be on the east side of the road. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
On those properties that you show for the driveways go down to the street, are they encroaching to city property, the city street?
They are part of the cities, inside the cities right away.
So when the property owner decides to pave or put concrete on his driveway, is he allowed to go into the city property and then start from there up to?
The plan is the consultant working in the design is taking into account all the new elevations for the sidewalls on that side to, in other words, if I go back to the proposed cross section here, sorry. As you can see, the consultant is proposing to have a cross slope, 2%, to have a little bit higher elevation on this side and have less difficulties with the steep driveways on this side. So instead of having a typical crown 2% to each side, that requires going lower on this side a little bit, so he was taking a 2% up to this side. That is one of the...
So the existing driveways, is the city gonna demolish those and do the sidewalk?
We'll have to make it work to be ADA compliance as much as we can and make the transition between the driveways and the new sidewalks to make it work for everyone. But part of the existing driveways within the city right away will be reconstructed. So these are the construction documents under design by a consultant hired by the city. They have made about 70% progress. One of the misunderstandings with the consultant was that his scope of work, according to him, was not to include the runabout in front of the high school, but he will provide to us conceptual designs enough to be part of the construction documents. So just a concept design with alternative for the runabout, but not planning profiles and things like that. We can figure it out later. This is the typical path line that ADA uses for any project that they handle. We are right here, close to 70%. It's expected to be done with the design, by March 2022. Will be completed the design 100% for the pedestrian multi-use pathway that will be part of this road. It is expected that we'll be in construction by May of next year with the pedestrian pathway on Front Reed. By then, we'll be done with the paving project on Front Reed by the city.
26 months.
26 months from since. The time that it takes to complete a project, yes.
That goes back to the first quarter.
Yeah. So this is a city map showing the project limits for the multi-use pathway under design. Technically, it's starting at Buffer Drive north up to Country Club, and then making a T at Front Reed Road up to the high school. At this point, according to the consultant working in the design, the construction cost will be about a little bit above $2 million. The money that we have available from the grant, the federal grant, is $945,000. We are looking for alternative to find that missing or additional funding. One of them is we are hoping that in the future we'll get funding from U.S. Congressman Grijalva, who approached Mr. Kissinger in April, requesting the submission of a grant application for additional funding. Specifically, he was looking for projects that are already listed in the statewide transportation improvement program, which the multi-use pathway is one of them. So Mr. Grijalva indicated that this is a very, very easy project to submit to the Congress and get additional funding. Unfortunately, this week, on November 1st, we received an email updating that he has been unable to get approval, but they are still hoping that they are still under discussions. The next tentative steps are complete the design by March 2022 for the multi-use pathway as planned. If funding is not available from U.S. Congressman Grijalva office for the difference, the other option is requesting additional funding from the same funding source that we are getting the money. CMAQ is a Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program. That is a typical situation where projects where when we realize that there is not enough money, there is always an opportunity to say, hey, there is a need for more money. So that is an option as well. Then we need to coordinate a meeting, a public meeting, to get input from the community as well, and Nogales High School, just to consider any input that they might have for this corridor. But we want to do that once we have a more detailed set of plans with dealing with all the challenges that we have, like the drainage, steep driveways, slopes in compliance with ADA. So we want to deal with all of those first. We are expecting to complete the design for this, the city's project, by February next year, and then be able to bid out the project in March. Next is have the construction project from more or less in 3 months, from April to June, and then be ready for the pedestrian pathway in May next year with whatever funding available we have at that time. If there is not enough funding, the option is to maybe reduce the scope of work for the multi-use pathway, maybe use the available fund just to construct the pathway on Grand Avenue and leave pending for future funding available, the Front Reed. But then by then we'll have the room available on Front Reed for future project. And another option will be maybe, if funding is not available, do the pedestrian pathway on Front Reed with in-house labor. It's an option. Any question?
Yes, go ahead, Council.
One, you mentioned about the slope of the water, and I haven't seen any gutters or anything, when It's pretty steep right there. How is that going to be addressed? And the other thing is, what has ADOT looked at, especially around behind the bleachers or the stadium, to be able to acquire the 10 feet?
I think that we have enough right away. We have 100 feet right away, so we don't need to acquire any more for the construction of this place. We have enough room.
Go ahead.
I have a few questions, Mr. Guerra. I tuned out a little bit when you said another, 26 months and whatnot, but can you please explain to me again what's going to happen on that runabout? Because last meeting, I believe we spoke about that, and you spoke that we're going to pour concrete on that area. So, is that still?
Yes.
When do you believe? Because that area, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. And this issue with Frank Reed, when I spoke to you, it's when Councilwoman Montiel and I came to the city of Nogales. You spoke to me that Mayor Garino had asked previously 2 years before that for Frank Reed to be fixed, and for some reason it was not fixed. So that's 2 years. It was this year, and I sort of got concerned because after that it's going to be almost 5 years, and that's what the time clock seems to be. The timeline seems to be 5 years for these people to get anything done. And I don't know about you, but would you like for that, if you live there, for it to take 5 years or 6 years? But in reference to what I'm talking about, when do you think that the city may have the time? I understand that the streets department is a little bit overwhelmed because we are paving a lot of streets. But it's not like we haven't had a chance to fix that piece of street. We fixed Mariposa Ranch Road. It has nothing to do with the pathway, ADOT pathway or Mariposa construction. When do you think, can you give us some type of timeline of when at least that area is going to be fixed? Because it's a very bad eyesore, and people, every time they tell me, hey, is the city going to be paying for my suspension work? Yeah. And to me, really, I think it's a sense of urgency.
Yeah, Councilman, I understand your point. I see that this road requires to be addressed as soon as possible. Unfortunately, because we are right now in the middle of a grant from the federal government, it is very challenging to not take in consideration whatever they are doing. We have to coordinate the horizontal and vertical alignment, our consultant with their consultant, and that is a more delicate issue. We have to respect their timeline.
I understand that, Mr. Guerra, but past conversations that we've had here, you said that we can work on that area and still respect what ADOT had to do. And now you're telling me that, well, no, we have to, respect what they say, but that's not what we discussed previously. You said that we can fix that area because it really did not matter. Am I correct in the previous
Yes.
conversations that we had?
You are correct to a certain point in the aspect that that section that we work already, that is the area that I was specifically saying that we can work in that area without any issue, because that area is wider and without less driveways challenging the project. The rest of the area requires a little bit closer attention. And my professional advice is not touching that area until we are clear with both designs matching each other, which is by early next year.
So 2 years that mayor asked for that street, that's 2 years past, plus this one, and additional, how much more? Another year and a half?
I don't think are 2 years. We started this year with this project.
Yeah, but from one of the meetings that we've had, the first meeting that I was city council, conversation I had with Mayor Garino here, that he had asked previously to fix that road, right? Am I correct? Am I crazy or what?
No, you are correct.
Okay, so, and one of the issues I had, that it would almost take, to your calculations, it would almost take 5 years to get anything done. But now I guess I was wrong. It's not 5 years, it's almost 6 years now. And that's what, we can do something in between. You can't tell me that, we can't fix that area, maybe during the fall break, spring break or something. I don't know. It just seems maybe it's just me that it seems like it's a man trying to move an elephant sometimes, and I get an earful from people, and it's not one day, it's not a couple of days, it's an everyday thing, and one of the biggest concerns people have is that area. They take their kids to school, and it's a Monday through Friday issue, and the optics is that we don't care, and I do care, so that's why Mr. Maldonado asked for the update. But from what we discussed last time, you said that you were going to start on that area as far as pouring concrete, and well, now you say, well, we have to wait for a grant or whatever and whatnot. And that's, it changes. It changes, Mr. Guerra. And that's where I have an issue.
Maybe there was, a misunderstanding from your part. The section that we already completed is the one that we committed to do. The rest, I'm still stating with the plan, the original plan. I didn't say anything else. We already went and paved Mariposa Ranch Road. That was part of the plan. I know that. So we have committed. We have done what we committed to do.
So we have to wait for grant money to finish that roundabout? Well, it's not a real roundabout, but...
No, not necessarily. We have already set aside funding from the city of Nogales for the paving. We have two alternatives for the paving section. One of them, the most expensive, let's say, is considering in the event that we have trucks driving through there. The worst case scenario. If we find a better way to avoid trucks in the area, we can reduce the cross-section and save money in that way. But we are not at that point yet until we are ready for the bidding process.
All right, whatever.
Any more questions?
Well, go ahead, Council.
Mr. Guerra, thank you. I know it's a process, and, I've talked to many neighbors from there, and, I started this 5 years ago, and I understand it's a process, and we can't jump. But, the thing is, what is it, 6 months that we started paving and all that, and I think now the residents to me have said, what I told them is true, that, we are going to work on it. It's going to take time, and we can't jump, we can't control the state or ADOT or nothing. I understand you. Thank you.
And just to add a little bit more, I submitted the application for the 1.3 million that we secured from the federal government in 2015. We are in 2021, so it's a lengthy process. Mm-hmm. We are closer than before, but we are right there.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions?
So, just one question, so that we're clear. When did we receive the funding, and when did we match the funding for this? 2019, ¿verdad?
This year.
No, when we first decided that we were going to work on Frank Reed.
Yeah, it was
2019.
Last year.
2020.
Yeah, 2020.
2020. Okay.
But again, we have to work with data in this process.
Yes, I understand that. So it was 2019 when the concept was brought to the council.
Yes.
See?
Yeah.
So it's a year pasaditos.
Mhm.
And then we matched it, John? When? The beginning of this year? Was it?
I believe so, sir. So, yes.
So it's not, it hasn't been 5 years. No?
Yeah, no.
It hasn't been 3 years. No? It's been a year and a half.
Correct.
So I understand how hard it is. And I understand working with ADOT, it's a lot harder. But, Sonia, we have to be a little bit patient with this.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
if you don't mind,
Yes.
Councilman, I'd like the opportunity to meet with Mr. Bonilla in my office on Friday, and we'll try to work out the concerns of your constituents. And I'll work with Juan and our streets department very closely to make sure we're able to accomplish as much as we can out there. And what I think he's talking about is the intersection of the intersection that we stopped right there. So we will definitely come back and look at that. That intersection wasn't included in the presentation that we have for tonight, but we can definitely take a look at that and get back to Mayor and Council to talk a little bit more about our plans for that specific intersection, Mr. Bonilla. And we'll commit to getting that done for us.
And just for the members of the council, you have to understand, it has to be done in concrete.
Yes.
Because that's where all the tributaries of water meet for the runoff. You know, it can't be done in asphalt. Yeah, paving has to be done in concrete. So something like that has to be formed out. It has to be, poured differently, compacted differently, so that we can still have circulation and travel and stuff. But I know I've had people say, you did that road, it looks beautiful, and then you get to that corner right there, and then it doesn't look right. But it's because they thought that when we stopped there, your residents, that we were just going to flow and continue with it. But just so for the sake of discussion, and we already think we talked about it enough, just keep us updated on that and see how fast we can get to that. And if we can do anything ourselves as a city and not interfere with the grant process and the concept that ADOT has with you, let's go forward. Let's work on it and see if we can do it. I don't know if you're going to have that done by a company or you were going to do it in-house, but I think it's a very large concrete pour.
Right.
And I don't know if we would want to do it in-house. I think that would be a large pour.
You are correct. We have to come back, as Mr. Kissinger indicated, with some concepts that we already have. So it's just a question of you as a council members that make a decision what is the best, obviously together with the school, which will be somehow affected or benefited by the project.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Yeah. Okay. Okay, A, consideration possible action of liquor license 2021-10, approval of recommendation of issuance of liquor license for Miss Patricia Yarin Gomez for Machi Restaurant LLC, Seafood Restaurant, 557 North Grand Avenue.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Number 9, orders. A, consideration possible action of order 2021-11-065, an order of the Council of Arizona, City of Nogales, authorizing the city manager to award a contract to Innova Engineering, Inc. for the wastewater lateral connections to the International Outfall Interceptor for the amount not to exceed $427,706.30.
So moved.
Second. Discussion.
Mayor, I just
Go
want to,
ahead.
John, so we have the approval from IOI and all that won't interfere with the negotiations that you guys had and all that to do this connection?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yes. So this is part of the slip lining project. In order to do the slip lining project that IBW is seeing, these lateral connections have to be done. We applied to NatBank for this funding, and we're awarded that funding. So that's what that's part of. It's in coordination with IBWC to do this project. It's fully funded, so we need to move very quickly on this.
Okay. Without committing us anything to the IOI?
This has no effect on our current situation, and that we'll be speaking about in a little bit here.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Clarifying.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Yes, have it. B, consideration possible action of order 2021-11-066, an order of the Council of City of Nogales accepting a grant from the Tohono O'odham Nation in the amount of $142,070 for the installation of ADA adaptive playground equipment for Anza Park.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, John.
So this was a grant that came in, that comes in annually from the Tohono O'odham Nation. We were transitioning between Mr. Bachelier and Ms. Travers at the time. I took the initiative to consult with our assistant parks director at the time, or our acting parks director at the time, Mr. Oropesa, and I immediately thought and engaged the services of a good friend of the city and a good friend of mine, Ms. Kathy Scott, who's in the audience today, who helped me write this grant, and I think she did an excellent job on it, for some playground, ADA-type playground equipment for Anza Park, and I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to that park, and I think she did an excellent job on that. We were awarded it, so we just need to go into an agreement with Tohono O'odham, purchase it, and get it installed, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
Kathy, thank you so much for your
Thank
help.
you very much, Kathy. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? You guys have it. C, consideration, possible action of order 2021-11-067, an order of the Council of the City of Nogales approving the purchase of 2 surplus ambulances and 1 surplus of fire tender from Northwest Fire District.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Uh,
Go ahead.
Chief, we had purchased a couple of ambulances a year ago.
We purchased them beginning of the fiscal year. And the reason why and that we're looking at these is because the production time, because of the current market for vehicles, is 6 months after we get a VIN number, and we haven't gotten a VIN number yet. So we're looking at this probably taking into next, and that may be in the staff summary, but we're looking at the ambulances taking into next fiscal year at this point. We've already had some problems with keeping the ones we have on the road. So these surplus ones we're picking up for relatively inexpensive, and then once the new ones come in, they'll be sold off again. So our overall cost on them is minimal, just to actually have resources here until those other ones show up. And we've tried literally everything. We're on a waiting list where we're not chassis specific, like the bid was for Ford chassis, but I told them to put us on a list of if Dodges are available, let's get Dodges and put the same box on them. And essentially everybody else is on that list too. And so I know the Sprinter ones, I was just talking to the rep the other day, they were supposed to get chassis in November. That's pushed back till February now for those. So we don't know exactly when they're going to get here.
So we bought product that hasn't been delivered or usable yet.
We have put in we've signed an agreement, but we have not given them any cash.
Okay.
So we could always cancel it and just pick up use the ambulances if we wanted to, but
So are these going to replace those, or?
these are going to be in our possession until those new ones show up, because we've had issues over the last couple months where there were days where we had no backup ambulances. And the intent on getting the new ones is to put some of those other ones out of service, but we're going to keep these all until the new ambulances get here and then decide which ones we're going to surplus ourselves.
And these are 100% usable?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Chief, why don't you explain to the council the funding source of these used purchases?
Okay, so when we put the bid in for the ambulances, or when we were getting the request for the ambulances and putting that through, we didn't know if we were going to get pricing for the current model year or the next model year. Plus, we weren't sure on the tax rate. Since then, we figured out what the tax rate actually is through doing some research with our good friends at the state. And so the funding for that is out of the existing money that we had set aside for those ambulances. We'll still be able to buy the ambulances and do everything that we said we were going to do with them. We're just picking up another tender that will help us out, and some ambulances in the short term until the new ones come in. And then, like I said, we'll surplus off ourselves. So it's a minimal expense. I mean, we're getting them for essentially $10,000 each, and the chassis and the motor are worth that as they sit there right now. They're 7.3 diesel Ford F450s, so, or F350s. I can't remember.
2002 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, about 100,000 miles.
And the water truck in 1998?
Mm-hmm. 38,000 miles. And the purpose of that is a new one of those is about $350,000. And we assume that after we get done with all the infrastructure changes with the WIFA loans, that we probably won't have a need for two tenders. And that's why we were going for the current one we already picked up, because you approved one for about $50,000. We've already purchased that, and that's in the process of getting a little bit of work done to it, and it'll be in service soon. And this one is kind of a backup to pump trucks, because as we've been doing hydrant testing, we've had some mains that have failed, and we have some hydrants that need to be fixed. And so this is just another resource for us to keep an adequate water supply so we don't have an interruption of fire flow until we get all the WIFA stuff done. And then at that point, we'll surplus that one off too. So this is basically kind of a safety net for us until we get through infrastructure changes and new vehicle purchases and not running out and dropping of $250,000 on a tender. So,
I know it's a good purchase, but it just seems that, why would they, seems like they weren't really used if they only had 100,000 miles in 19 years.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question.
Seems like they weren't really used if they only accumulated 100,000 miles in 19 years.
Correct. So there's history with the vehicles at the agency where they were purchased. They're not, their field employees aren't a fan of them per se, because the box is a little smaller compared to the newer ones they bought. So they were reserve ambulances after they were brand new, but they weren't the first choice of the crews to go into, because the boxes are a little smaller than the new ones, because they're buying ambulances that are, close to $250,000 as well when they're all outfitted. And so they weren't huge fans of them, so these kind of sat around, and they run. They're in good condition. And so if you would like as a council not to approve the ambulances, it's not going to hurt my feelings, but I would assume approve the tender, because we really need that from a fire flow thing. And other than that, I'm good.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
At the price, I mean, they're practically free.
Yeah.
I know, because, but I deal with vehicles. So did you have our mechanics go check them out when you looked at them? Or?
No, I didn't. The Nogales, not Nogales, but Northwest Fire District fleet folks I've known for quite some time, and I've had conversations with them. I've looked at them myself. They're running. They fire right up. One of them does need probably a starter. Other than that, they're in good condition, and we'll throw radios in them and use them until the new ones get here and sell them off as soon as we can.
And they come with a 5-year, 60,000-mile warranty?
I wish. I wish.
Thank you, Chief, but it seems if they are what they say they are, I think it's a really good deal, because I bought in vehicles on the phone and on the internet and all that, and everything is well representative, so no buyer's remorse or anything. And if you trust these people, well, that's more power to the course there. So thank you.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. D, in consideration possible action of order 2021-11-068, an order of the Council of the City of Nogales, Arizona, adopting amendments to the City Personnel Manual, Chapter 16, 17, 18, and 19 to comply with federal law and equalized overtime, vacation, and 6 hours accrual rates and payouts for the same.
So move, Mayor.
Second. Discussion.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
You know, we had in our cubbies some research done, and I think in general, you know, to change all these charter amendments and all that with more, when you have somebody from Washington telling you that we're not out of line, I think it's hard. I think we should look at it more deeply in a study session and see you know, all sides of it and determine that you know, that there is something wrong. You know, like I said, for everybody's knowledge, you know, we have a copy here from a lawyer and saying that we are not at wrongdoing with all the overtime way we're paying and all that, and I think you know, HR, finance, or you know, we have to look into it and come out with options and see what it is that really needs to be done.
Yeah. Who wants to talk about this? Who's the man?
Well, Mayor, before we get to the substance of it, I'm not sure what Councilman. I mean, it sounds like he's might be saying that you're making a motion to table this until there's a study session, in which case we have a motion, we have a second on the order as presented, Mayor. But if this is a motion to table, then the motion to table has to be considered before we get to the substantive underlying motion. So is there a second on the motion to table, I guess? Okay, so there's a motion and a second to table, so we should be addressing that motion first, Mayor.
Okay. So discussion on the motion?
To table.
Table?
Yeah.
Okay, were you going to say something up there?
No, I was just preparing myself in case council had questions.
John, were you going to say something?
No, sir.
No?
Well, well, Mr. Mayor, this is obviously an item that staff's bringing forward for consideration. Mr. Massey and Mr. Thompson can speak to the specifics of the changes and why staff believes that they're required. However, when we get to the discussion portion of that, we're ready to discuss it with Mayor and Council while we're bringing this forward and asking for your approval.
Yeah, but you said we had two motions to table.
Mayor, just as a matter of procedure, when a council member makes a motion to table and there's a second, we pretty much have to vote on that motion before we proceed with any consideration or discussion of the underlying order, even though there was a motion and second. But so now for procedure purposes, we need a vote on the motion to table first.
And how sensitive is this? Is it time sensitive, something? you
Oh,
need
to
know
vote
now?
on the motion to table?
No, no, to do something about it or to,
To, John? Oh.
in case it's tabled, I mean,
We would bring it forward on a.
as a study session?
Study session.
As a study session? Mr. Maldonado, is that what you're requesting?
Yes, sir.
As a study session?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Were you going to say something, Montia?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You know, I also received the Nogales Firefighters Union 2763, and I studied this issue because it's very complex. At least for me it is. It's very interesting too. And we basically have two opinions, the way I see it, that seem to disagree as to whether it is a violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act. So I know there's opinion by Brenda Tranchina, and then there's the opinion by the fire union fighters attorney. So like I said again, there's two different opinions, and I value both opinions. And I agree with council member, Mr. Maldonado, that we should table it and look into it, because I take this very seriously, and I think I need more information to make a educated opinion. And so I think that it's just best to table it so that we can have further discussions regarding this topic. Thank you.
All right, so we'll go with the motion to table. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Yes, it's tabled.
And so staff will bring it back at a study session at a time that is the next available opportunity, Mayor.
So just for the sake of what we just tabled, a study session on this, can you give me an idea of how much time this study session will take? Because I would not want to put this on a council meeting mandated by the budget.
Right.
I mean, by the mandated one on say December 1 or nothing.
Correct.
We have to put a special meeting for it. So is it that type of study session?
Mayor, members of the council, if I may, last executive session, at least in conversing about this without going into too much details, took about 2 hours. I would not anticipate anything less than that.
Less than 2 hours. And are we prepared for something like this?
I believe we are, Mr. Mayor. I believe this is an issue. These amendments to our personnel manual have been worked over extensively by our consultant, by our legal team, and by Mr. Thompson, and we prepared it for Mayor and Council's consideration.
Okay. So let's prepare for this, and maybe by the end of this meeting, we'll set a date for that study session so that we can discuss this in late.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we're anticipating having a meeting on the 12th.
What was that?
We're also anticipating having a council meeting on the 12th.
Yes. Yes, I know.
The 12th of November.
Yeah. Maybe
That's a possibility for a study session. If not, then we can work on.
maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do that on the 12th. Right. So let's contemplate doing it on the 12th.
John, can you just, excuse me, Mayor, can you refresh my mind, who, the name of the consultant?
I'm sorry.
The name of the consultant?
Consultant.
Who is the consultant?
Who is the consultant that we've been working with? She's got
John, may I?
Brenda.
Her name is Brenda Tranchina.
Tranzina, right. And it's in a memo that I sent to all of you back. I can refresh your memory with that memo on her findings and her.
Yes, you've sent it,
Yeah.
John.
I'll get Mr. Maldonado copies of it too.
Maldonado, is that okay? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then we'll do it on the 12th, John. All right. So we'll have that studied on the 12th. I guess we're going to be having the meeting with by the city manager.
Mayor,
Yes, okay.
what time, please?
That's going to be at 10 in the morning.
Is there any chance of making it late in the afternoon?
Let me think about it.
I'm
Morning's my
open
work-
to any
morning's my
time
work
during
time.
the day.
Hardcore.
10 in the morning is very good for me. Well, why don't we vote on when we're going to have it? I say, but raise hands if you want it at 10 in the morning. So how many were there for? We have it at 10 in the morning. All right. E, consideration possible action, order 2021-11-069, an order of the Council of the City of Nogales approving an agreement with the International Association of Firefighters Local 2763.
So move, Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken on this particular order, if you look at it, it needs to be a motion with some options that were given to mayor and council. So just a motion to pass this order isn't sufficient. There's a couple of options that need to be included in the motion before you vote on it, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me. You can hardly understand. I think the sound is not that clear.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I turned it up because I was having trouble hearing Mrs. Montiel.
Yeah, I'll try to speak up. It's too soft.
Yeah.
We have to.
Thank you.
Okay, do it again, John.
All right, Mr. Mayor. Let me go to the order so I can make sure that. If you look at the order carefully that we have in front of you, there's under the therefores, there's number one, that could be a motion, a standalone motion. But under number two, there's two options for mayor and council to consider. So what we need the motion to address, and you can take this, my understanding with Mr. Massey, you can take this into steps. You can take a step to vote on number one, and then you can move on to voting on the second question and choosing either option A or B, or is what staff would need in form of a motion to move forward. Okay. I hope that helps you. And if you need any more explanation on that, I'll let Mr. Massey explain it.
Mr. Massey?
Yes, sir. There is a motion and there is a second. And as the acting city manager mentioned, the posture of this order is to declare that the negotiations with the firefighters organization has essentially ceased, and it's stopped at an impasse. So previous orders of this council has been to continue their current agreement to allow negotiations to continue, and those orders have been open-ended extensions. And so at this point, and Mr. Thompson can certainly talk about that, is that the administration and the firefighter unions, the negotiations are no longer productive. They've come to an impasse, as I've said. And so item number one on the action item is to say that negotiations are done and there's no more extension of the current contract. But then item number two gives the mayor and council the option of accepting the administration's proposal for a new contract that would continue for the remainder of this budget year, or you can go with what the union is requesting, which is keep the current contract to the remainder of the fiscal year. So the impasse is that the administration has prepared a contract and the union has rejected it. And instead, the union wants their current contract to be extended to the end of the fiscal year. So you can pass number one, and that would just mean that the contract is over. But the option number two is, do you replace it with the administration's proposed contract, or alternatively, you just keep what's in place?
Well, let me tell you how I feel. Same thing I told the police department, all right? I do not like contracts brought to me. And as mayor, I don't believe in negotiating any contract from any union, being firefighters, being police, or being CWA. So I strongly believe that contracts should be dealt with the unions, Mr. Kissinger, or Mr. Thompson, or Mr. Massey. And that's how they should be negotiated and brought to us just in a contract form saying, this is what we negotiated and this is what we recommend mayor and council. All right? And that's all I'll say about this. So you guys make your decision. But I do not want to deal with any damn contract or anything, because I don't think it's a duty that I have to deal with. I'm here to approve a contract, not to negotiate a contract. And you're telling me right now that I need to start negotiating what A, B, C, or whatever. I'm not going to be doing that. So, if it's up to me and you say, this is what I brought to you, if I want to say nay, I'll say nay. If I want to say yay, I will say yay. But I don't see any options on this. So talk among yourselves if you want to.
Do you want to recognize someone? I mean, we need to maintain our public meetings, of course. So
You tell me what you want. You make a motion on what you want. And I'll just proceed as the chair.
there's a motion and a second. It's
Yeah.
just that we need to.
But I'm saying,
clarify
wait,
what that
clarify
motion
it,
is.
that clarification.
So the motion, I believe, was made by the Vice Mayor. So do you want to include option 1 and 2? And if so, is it 2A or 2B?
Can you clarify option 3?
There's 1 and
Another?
there's 2.
You had 3.
And what's the third option then?
You said it.
No. The second has two options.
Right. So, number 1 is just saying negotiations are finished
Over.
and extensions
Second
are
is
finished.
replace. Second one was replace.
Second, and then paragraph number 2 has 2 options. So in that sense, there are 3 elements there. 1 is to accept the proposal set before council by the administration with their proposed contract. And we do have staff here that can explain what that contract entails. Or 2 is just to keep the current contract in place and extend it to the end of the fiscal year. So 2 is 2A and 2B. 2A is to accept the administration's contract. 2B is to continue the current contract to the end of the fiscal year.
Councilman Bonilla, you have something to say?
This is exactly what the mayor said. It's dicey here when we have to negotiate the contract. So if we terminate the contract which expired 2 months ago, am I correct?
Well, it was continued by council.
We extended it two
Yes.
months, right? But it has technically has expired, correct? So if we move to terminate this, then I'm seeing here on B that the remainder that we request the contract. So we keep what's on there again, or how? This is where I'm confused. So if we move to terminate it, so then we vote for B, then we back to where we're at.
Right. So the motion, if it's the motion to include 2B, basically it's just the 1 and 2B merged together, and you're going to continue the contract. I mean, actually 2B will overrule 1, and so the contract gets continued to the end of the fiscal year. But if the motion is for 1 and 2A, what you're saying is the current contract terminates and the administration's proposal would finish the contract term to the end of the fiscal year. So that's what I need clarification is as the movement on this motion, Vice Mayor, is your motion to be number 1 and 2A or number 1 and 2B?
Okay, mine was for number 1 and 2A.
Okay. And then Councilman Bonilla, I believe you're the second. Are you willing to second that
I would
motion?
second.
Okay. So that's clear now, Mayor. So the motion is to terminate the current contract and replace it with the proposal for the rest of the fiscal year by what's been proposed by the administration.
One question here. Would this impact the study, what we're going to talk about on the study session on the 12th? Does this have an impact on that?
Yes, they go together.
Yeah, I believe this does have that impact because what happens is the proposal by the administration contemplates that there will be changes to the HR manual. And so even though the contract is terminated and the proposal from the administration will finish out the fiscal year, unless the amendments to the HR manual eventually get adopted, the equalized treatment hasn't yet been affected because the HR manual itself has some unequal treatment in there. From
supersede another.
No, the current HR manual provisions would obviously continue to apply unless and until they're amended.
So I just have a question. So if we tabled the previous agenda item, I think it just make sense to, because like you said, we haven't been able to address the
HR.
amending of the contract. So can't we just table that and we have a discussion session?
These two items, Mayor, do go closely together. They do relate closely.
May I?
Go ahead.
So, just for clarification, Mr. Massey, it's being muddled, if that's the right word, because we're tabling the last item.
Well,
Yeah.
it is, the two are presented as two different independent items, but I do agree, Mayor, as I just said, they are closely related, and it would seem to make sense that council would take both actions at the same time. It seems.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know that I would agree that it's muddled, but yes, they do closely go together, and so it almost does seem like putting the cart before the horse, unless the two are acted upon at the same time.
So it would be a better idea to table both.
It's up to you. I mean, I think you could act on this if that's the will of council, but I agree that there is a close relationship between the two items.
Sister, you would have to change your motion.
Okay,
Well,
then.
no, there, actually, a motion to table would take precedent over the current motion under consideration. So,
No.
Do we have to vote on it?
no, I mean, if you want to make a motion to table, make a motion.
And anybody could make the motion. to
Anybody
table,
can make
right?
the motion to table, yes.
Well, then I'll make a motion to table item E.
Second.
All right?
Is that what the council wants?
Well, that motion needs to be voted on before we go to any other procedure.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. So E is tabled.
And we'll put that on the study session at the same, with the last item.
So you better bring dinner for that one. So I'm glad we're doing it at 10 in the morning because this probably take all day.
Yeah.
And you know what's going to happen that day? You're going to be negotiating, all of you.
Mayor, we're going to be listening.
No,
That's
you're
what
going to be
we're doing.
negotiating. That's what you're going to be doing.
No, we're going to be listening.
Okay?
That, you know,
All right. We're
That's
going
why
into
all these
executive
gentlemen are
session.
here.
We passed it already. Number 10, executive session. Upon motion, the city council will meet in executive session pursuant to ARS Section 38-43103 and 4 to consult with its attorneys for legal advice and consider its position and instruct its attorneys with respect to the settlement discussions involving a dispute, O&M demands from IBWC, and related issues conducted in order to avoid litigation. Motion.
Second?
All right. Well, we're going into executive session. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And Mayor, we'll have the executive session in the conference room.
Yes.
We should have that set
Which
up.
staff members are you going to have? Master?
Yes, the staff members are going to be me, our outside attorney, the city clerk, and the acting city manager.
Before we go in there, I'm going to we'll have a 5-minute recess.
Touch base with our outside attorney.
There's a whole bunch of stuff together on your iPad. No,
Reconvene from executive session, and then we go into item 11. Discussion and possible action to direct staff regarding ongoing settlement discussions with IBWC. Motion to allow staff to pay quarterly O&M bills from IBWC based on flows and otherwise appear valid and accurate.
So moved, Mayor.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Mayor and Council's report on current events. Let me pull out my sheet here. I'll start with me. October 13th, I had the Sentinel interview regarding border restrictions lifted. Same day, KGUN 9 interview regarding border restrictions lifted. Same date, Mega Noticias interview regarding border restrictions. Same date, Arizona Daily Star interview regarding border restrictions, and Imparcial interview regarding border restrictions. October 16th, Nogales Bicycle Classic. October 19th, meeting with Mariposa Community Health Center regarding partnership, and meeting with Keno Border Initiative. October 21st, meeting with CBP regarding opening of the border. Conecta Arizona interview regarding reopening of the border. October 22nd, roundtable meeting with Senator DeCinema and IBWC Commissioner Jr. And lunch meeting with Consul Bidenbeck and IBWC Commissioner Jr. October 23rd, Art Committee Art Event. October 26th, meeting interview with students from U of A, ASU, Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. And October 30th, Dia de los Muertos, Karen Park. Vice Mayor?
Well, I only have the Dia de los Muertos event to report. I want to say thank you to everybody that was involved. Thank you, Mayor, for building the...
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The
altar.
The altar, and Kathy for doing all the decorations. And I mean, it was a lot of work, believe it. A lot of work, but it was worth it. And now we're waiting for the Christmas Village display, so that it's coming in within the middle of the month. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Diaz.
I also did the Dia de los Muertos event. It was a good event. Everybody, all the vendors sold all their wares and everything, so that was very good. And also, I'd like to remind everybody, November 11th, Veterans Day, parade and the whole deal. So be there. Thank you very much.
Councilman Maldonado.
I also attended the bicycle classic on October 16th. It was nice having a bunch of riders coming out. Attended the first kickball tournament at Fletcher Park, and also pretty good crowd. Think looks like everybody had enjoyed it. And on October 18th, we had a very, very, very good turnout. Thank you, Ms. Montiel, for helping out and participating in the Little League closing ceremony. It was very good. We're very surprised that a very good outcome, having the kids get their medals. So, that's all I have. Thank you.
I also attended with Councilwoman Melendez the day before, the 15th it was of October. That roundtable we had with the bicycles and all that. And I'd like to just take time to congratulate the Streets Department, Mr. Kissinger. I think they've been doing an excellent job. And I've asked you, for help in some of the streets in Monte Carlo as far as them cleaning up the areas, and they went above and beyond. I was really very pleased on the work they've done on Sonora Street, and I'd just like to congratulate them on their fabulous work. Also, last month I was approached by local media. They wanted to know if I had received any money for doing sound for the city address and the Fiestas Patrias. I explained to the media that I was not paid. There was a need for me to be honest, I was not planning to do any work as far as sound-wise on the Fiestas Patrias, but there was a need because the guy was not up to par, so I had to step in. And as far as the city address, I just wanted to make sure that everything ran smooth. So what came out is that I was able to explain that I donated my time, and I would like to thank Mr. Javier Delgado, owner of Okiroki Sushi. He donated the sound system, the staging and lighting for the Fiestas Patrias, and he also loaned me his equipment from the restaurant for the city address. So thank you, Mr. Javier Delgado, for your contribution to the city of Nogales and to our constituents.
October 23rd, I participated in a fundraiser for the Desert Sky gym, for the little girls who are on Bankard. And they had a walk, run-a-thon, but it was just to raise some funds. Then I went to the Fiestas Patrias. So that was an excellent event. We had a lot of fun there. And that's all.
Yeah, a couple of things. I attended the Fiestas Patrias, and I think good job, Mrs. Lopez, and all the crew, the city crew, especially putting everything together. It's a nice activity to see the collaboration between the city and the people of Nogales coming together and celebrating it. It's been a while. We haven't had things like that. Because of the COVID-19. So it's nice to see that it's coming back to normal to some degree. Then, the closing ceremonies for the Little League. Thank you for inviting me. It was really nice to see so many kids and their parents there. You do a great job, all of your officers and the parents and the volunteers and the coaches and so forth. What a great job. It was really nice to see the participation. Also, it was nice to see the fire department had a little Halloween event put together by some of the officers. I happened to have passed by and I saw a huge line and I thought something was going on. So it was nice to see that they're collaborating with the community. And that's about it.
Thank you very much. Future agenda items, John. I need to have something on the annexation. It's going too slow, and if the state property is in the way, we need to bring it to a vote so that we can proceed with the signatures. Because I think, I don't know who's holding that, but let's hold them agenda item. Anybody else? Future agenda item? Go ahead.
So I had annexation too. Did you see my notes?
Okay. Sorry.
Annexation? Yeah. Just an update, Mr. Kissinger, on annexation.
It's not an update of mine.
Yeah.
Mine is going to be action.
Okay, mine's an update or action.
I'll put one item on the agenda.
So just drop mine off and just leave that one on. So also an update, Mr. Kissinger, on the annex building next door. And also an update on the city manager hiring process and where we're at.
That's the meeting we're having on the 12th.
Is that the meeting that we're having on the 12th? Okay, all right, that's fine. Go ahead, John. So just drop it. I know it's late. It is 15 till 10. And that's all I have for now. Thank you, Mr. Kissinger.
Anybody else?
Mayor, Yellow. Mr. Massey, what do it take to get it in writing? I think we're supposed to be a team, and a little like a reminder that It's a mayor and council run form of government.
Mayor, this is future agenda items, and so I don't know that that relates to future agenda items. But I understand what Councilman is saying, but I don't know that there's I don't know that there's anything that this office, the city attorney's office, can do. But I think it does relate to the rules of procedure that we discussed, and so in the process of adopting rules of procedure, there may be some discussions on that topic.
Isn't it in the city charter?
What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What the mayor doesn't with the council does.
Oh, yes. A lot of the duties are set out there.
The city charter.
City
All you have to
charter.
do is open up the city charter and look at it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, motion to adjourn? All right.